There's not many riders out there crossing the boundaries between BMX and mountain bike like Remy Morton. Quietly carving a niche for himself in the world of dirt, his vision flows beyond simply riding some of the world's biggest trails on big wheels and small. His passion to build trails started early, and his dirt creations around the globe are now becoming synonymous with a new generation of riders not content with the status quo. His own push to redefine and progress everything he touches is a breath of fresh air and has been inspiring crew from all sides of the biking community. Welcome to the Head Angle number 9, where we catch up with the one and only Remy Morton from his shack in the outer limits of New Zealand's Queenstown by the wonders of the internet. Enjoy.
After a fuck up of a start, we're kind of good to roll.
Straight as.
Welcome to the Head Angle.
Thanks for having me.
I don't think we've done one in a year.
I think, last episode was just over a year ago, which is thanks COVID and restrictions and all that good stuff. Made it hard.
Yeah.
That's right. So
on the trusty Zoom now.
That's it. You know what? We kind of didn't want to do that, but here we are. Born by necessity.
Yeah. I don't know. There's no way I was coming to Australia at the moment. I think I'd be stuck there for a while if I did.
That's it. Yeah, Sydney's just going with the dogs at the moment.
You wouldn't be able to get in anyway. Sydney, like there are people stuck in NZ who can't come home at the moment, which is crazy. So
really?
Yeah.
Farah, you think that they'd let them into Oz, but I don't know.
I think
just definitely, I don't know. It's pretty much normal here.
Yeah. That's
Yeah. Well, we both live on island, so it should be good. But they keep opening the gates in the moat. They let the drawbridge down, and we get screwed.
Yeah, fully. Yeah. What's the plan for this? What are we discussing?
You know, basically, I just want to go back through your life on bikes, starting at the beginning, because you cross a lot of boundaries, and that's kind of the vibe.
Cool.
You know, like you've managed to cross all the boundaries in mountain biking, from racing World Cups to free ride, alongside trail building. But you've also blown the doors off BMX in some ways.
Yeah, the saltiest of the saltiest, most hardcore BMX trail dudes definitely respect you, which is that says a lot. Which is like they're a pretty tough crowd to please.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, man, it's awesome.
So yeah, man, you've really carved a niche for yourself. Yeah, across all these boundaries. So if we go back to the start, where did riding start for you?
Well, it started as long as I can remember, really. I've always had, like, whenever we always went camping when I was a kid, always had bikes from, like, when I was a toddler on, basically. I always dug, always made little tracks in our backyard. We grew up in acreage, so as long as I can remember, we were digging and riding, basically. That was kind of the story of my life. But then I guess I first got a Pee-wee 50, and then I had a pretty hard crash on that when I was like 3 years old. and then I rode off like a pretty big embankment in our backyard. And then my dad got me a little BMX bike to learn because he was into moto. He got me a BMX, a little red line, and got me into BMX racing and training nights and stuff when I was like just about to turn 4 on a little micro mini. And then it kind of went from there, I guess. So it was like, yeah, he just got me into it to learn bike skill for moto, but then I started really enjoying it, and then that kind of became what I was actually doing. And yeah, so I started off with full BMX racing, basically.
Where was the home track?
Nerang.
Oh, dude.
On the Gold Coast.
Oh,
yeah.
legit.
So
yeah.
That was about 5 minutes from where I grew up. So yeah, it was like swapping between Ashmore BMX and Nerang, and then all of kind of southeast Queensland or down to Sawtell near Coffs and kind of, I don't know, kind of down the east coast, I guess, but never really did any races out or any further past Sawtell, basically. It was all kind of between southeast Queensland to the top of New South Wales.
What like how serious did you get? Like, did you just go to like state level stuff or just keep it local?
Yeah,
Regional?
I was winning the national rounds from like my age between like 6 to 8, I think.
Yeah, rad.
And then like that was kind of the thing. And then it just like when I was 5, one of the other kids that I raced with, he got a mountain bike, and then his dad talked my dad into getting one so we could ride together. And he was doing cross country races. Just I think his dad wanted him to do something outside of just being at the BMX track every week. So then I was racing cross country. Like I did my first cross country race when I was 5, and then I just liked hitting jumps and shit basically. So then it kind of moved on to changing it was a little 24-inch specialized hot rock, which ended up turning into like a mini slope bike, I guess. So it was kind of like, I think I snapped it when I was 6. So I just started doing pretty big jumps on it in the backyard. And by then dad got an old giant acid hardtail, and he was kind of riding with me, and we were just digging every day. And mountain bike definitely started becoming a priority, just because I think I enjoyed being able to do it with my dad, and we were riding and digging a lot. And then I still raced BMX till the age of 9 or 10, but and I was racing at kind of a nationals level. But yeah, definitely not too hectic. Like my parents couldn't afford to travel or anything, which I don't know. Now I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't pay for a kid under 10 years old to go national either. But
oh man, some of these families are bonkers. Like just traveling to West Oz, and I can't imagine how much money that would cost family. You got 5 kids, taking them all across the national titles or something, like nuts.
It's awesome, but it's hectic. It's a lot of commitment, eh?
Yeah.
You had to be on the East Coast. Like I grew up in South Oz, and it was a long way to go to events. So you just didn't really get to do it much. But you always have these families come from, especially Queensland, come over, and you're just like, man, you've just come over with this, like there's all these little kids, all these big kids, mum's racing, dad's racing. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, fully. And I think it's kind of good in that sense. Like I think Queensland is really big for BMX racing. I don't know. I don't follow it too much now, but definitely when I was a kid, it seemed pretty big. So a lot of the national rounds were always kind of pretty local, or there was always big races happening at Nerang, which was cool. So never traveled too much with it. And then kind of by the age of like, I did my first downhill race in 2005. So when I was 7 years old, I was state champs at Illumbah.
Yep.
And then my dad was the club president at the time for the mountain bike club.
Which club?
The Gold Coast Mountain Bike Club.
Gotcha.
And I was too young to race legally under like the Mountain Bike Australia rules. So they had to get the head president of Mountain Bike Australia at the time to come and like do a survey or something to watch us ride.
An assessment.
It was pretty funny, little tests. And then, pretty much from then, I guess it just went, definitely downhill became my priority. I just liked going fast, and I could do that.
Yeah,
definitely, man. So a couple of years of racing, and then you're aiming for the Australian junior team.
Yeah, I guess so. It was, I guess coming from BMX, like, because I raced BMX from such a young age, I always raced up in age category. So like when I was 6, I was racing it under 7 to 8-year-old kind of thing. And then when I was 9, I was racing 12-year-olds. And then the same kind of thing happened in mountain bikes, because when did my first race when I was 7, they started an under 11s category, like specially for me. And then it, kind of from there, I guess it was like, I didn't want to be in under 11s for 6 years. It's pretty pointless, like racing by myself.
Like Steve McCann, 17 for 14 years.
So I went to under 15s pretty quick. And then all of a sudden, like when I was like 12, I was racing in under 17s. And by the time I was 14, I was under 19s. And then at 15, I was in racing elite at all of our local Queensland rounds. So it kind of progressed pretty quick, and then when it became time to like be on the junior team or whatever, it was kind of like I felt special, but it didn't feel as special as what it maybe should have, because I guess I was already racing elite for years by then in like our local series. So it was kind of, yeah, maybe a bit different. I had a different feeling to a lot of the other riders my age, maybe.
I guess you probably weren't as intimidated as some other kids your age. Kind of the pedestal had been weathered down for you.
Yeah, I guess I just already been doing it for so long, and already like my dad was so into it as well, and because Dad was super into riding then as well, we're all riding downhill together, and I'd done a few overseas trips by that point, and yeah, it was pretty like it kind of just came all together naturally, which was it was pretty cool, because it definitely felt like no pressure at all. It was just like the progression was just happening with time.
So from a pretty young age, like you were aiming to get on the Australian team, I guess, and travel to Europe to race World Cups, yeah?
Yeah, it was kind of like, I guess, growing up, I just always watched all the mountain bike movies. And it was kind of around that boom of like Sam Hill, Nathan Rennie, and Chris Kavarik. And it was pretty cool because I grew up in Mudgeeraba on the Gold Coast, and like Nathan and Chris were both living around like Carrara or Robina or something. So we always saw them driving around town. We were doing shuttles at the same tracks together. Like, I didn't know them. I just like was probably in the car like, Dad, look, there's Nathan. Or like, you know, like just frothing over it. But
there's Nathan, Chris in a corner.
Yeah, exactly. And I think from like a pretty young age, it was definitely my goal. I just wanted to be like them. And I think it was pretty inspiring seeing like the guys that were the current world champions. It sort of just seemed normal, just seeing them most weekends riding with their mates. It didn't seem like a kind of unachievable thing, because they just looked like normal dudes that I saw all the time.
Yeah,
which was really sick.
I guess a lot of kids wouldn't have had that, which is probably gave you
it was definitely pretty crazy. Like, they were leading the world in mountain bike racing at the time, you know, and it's just like you saw them. It was really cool. And ever from then, I just always told Dad that's what I was going to do. They kind of like, I didn't really have any option. I hated school. Whenever the school teachers asked me what I was going to do, I just said I was going to be a pro rider. And then, I don't know, there's kind of no option B. Like, if it was a rainy day and a school day, I'd take the day off and go digging, because it was good digging weather. It was kind of like I was going to be riding or digging, but there was kind of definitely no option B for a career.
All right, so your first trips overseas to Europe to race, like you did a trip with Baxter way back in the day, didn't you? In a van.
Yeah, that was my third Euro trip though.
Oh, wow, it was your third one, right?
Yeah, so originally in 2014, the year before I was a junior, I was on the NS Dynamics team, which is a suspension shop in Brisbane.
Yep.
And the current...
Shout out to Aaron.
The mechanic... Yeah, Aaron, and it was Nigel at the time as well, which Nigel was Stevie Smith's mechanic on Da Vinci Global. So they were... Through Nigel and Gabe Fox from Da Vinci then, they were supporting me as like a kind of undercover rider, I guess, for them through the team. So they were flowing me some product and helping me out. And they got me over to Europe the year before I was a junior to do some IXS Cups and to do some sweep riding at the World Cups to kind of get a feel of it, so that when it did come time to do juniors, I had already got comfortable with being in that environment. And they kind of, I don't know, Nigel just said it would really benefit my riding, and Dad was super supportive and jumped on, and then we went over for a family trip, and they'd never been to Europe, so they were super excited. And yeah, we went and did that and traveled around and just did a bunch of races and did all the sweeping at a few World Cup rounds. And then from there it went to, I met the guys from the Polygon UR team. And then I signed with the Polygon team for 2015, which was my first year junior. So I guess that that really fast-tracked a lot of things, because a lot of junior riders always go over as a privateer for their first year racing, whereas my first year of proper racing, I went over and I was on a fully pro team with Mick and Tracy, and it was pretty crazy feeling from going from like dropping out of school to that. It was a big change within like 2 years.
Yeah, man, definitely.
But
well, it gives you your kind of life, accelerates your life experience, sort of learning trajectory, you know, like when you
definitely.
It's so awesome.
Yeah, it was a pretty hectic learning curve for sure. But yeah, from there it kind of, I did my first World Cup series with them, with Polygon. And then that was kind of like a dream of mine, I guess. I went from getting cheap bikes the year before, which was really awesome, to all of a sudden like getting free bikes, which I guess growing up as a kid, like you want to be a sponsored rider, it went from like it was the dream, you know. I was getting flown around the world to race, and it was crazy. But then things kind of started as the year went on, that that situation didn't pan out as well as we had kind of planned. I had a 3-year contract that ended up getting cut short after 8 months, and I just didn't really get along with the managers that were managing the team, and we had a few kind of, I don't know, we didn't agree on everything. and then it went from full factory to full privateer pretty quick. And then that was the year that I traveled with Baxter that following year. So that was a pretty crazy curve of events, because it went from like the biggest pit truck at the World Cups to all of a sudden sleeping in the same bed as Baxter and in the car parks.
Yeah. Your van had a name, yeah? Your van, yeah.
Well, I can't even remember. Baxter was calling it something. What has he told you what it's called? I can't even remember.
Or was it Audrey or something?
Audrey, that's right. Yeah, it was, because there was a painting in it that was like, I don't know, Audrey or something.
I only remember this because of an interview we did years ago in Revo.
Yeah.
And I just found it. I was like, holy crap, that's right. You did that van trip.
Yeah. Sorry, I should have remembered
good,
that.
Really. It would have been a hazy time in the back of that van.
Yeah, it was pretty sick. It was me, my dad, and Baxter, which was pretty cool. Dad was like helping us with mechanics. So yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah, it was like Baxter was a year younger than me, I think. So he was first year junior. I was second year junior, and it was a good learning curve. It definitely, I think, for both of us, made us realize what we wanted out of riding. Like, it was pretty, I guess, for me, it was growing up, like watching all the World Cup movies, all the Earths, all the Super 8s, all those kind of DVDs. It definitely wasn't the environment that I imagined it being. And I guess because during like our first few years of juniors, it went from, you know, when Chris and Nathan and stuff were doing it, which is what all the movies I grew up watching, it seemed like a pretty lifestyle kind of sport. Obviously, they were taking it serious, but they were having a lot of fun doing so. Whereas now it's definitely a pretty like prestigious sport. And I think I was right kind of in the change of that whole part of the sport when we went through juniors. And I think for both me and Baxter, it obviously panned out that after that year, we didn't really follow it for too much longer. We kind of took off on our own paths and decided to be ourselves and do what what we did, which has worked out now. But for a few years there, it was pretty kind of like empty times, I guess, because it went from a whole life goal of getting to the World Cups to all of a sudden realizing it wasn't what we actually wanted.
Yeah, man. I mean, finding out that racing isn't the only thing you can do on a bike, when it's been the only thing, you know, it's been the whole goal. And yeah, you're right. Every video seemed to be about that. There wasn't that big video free ride movement. There was, but we weren't getting it out here.
Yeah, fully. Like, especially, yeah, that's the crazy thing in Australia. Like, there's never been a free ride part of the sport. Like, Grant Allen was the only real dude that really stepped it up in that part. He was the only guy at Rampage or in the New World Disorder. And after he stopped riding the big bikes, it definitely, like, it just went quiet for a long time there.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there was a couple other dudes. There was a kid up your way, Darren Pockage, BMX and mountain bike. He rode Crankworks.
Yeah, it was Darren, yeah.
And then two guys from Adelaide who were killing it, Chris Soinen and Alan Hepburn. They both did a Bear Claw Invitational and Crankworks when I was over there. So there was a little scene almost popping, but there was no events here. And that's why nothing happened, I think.
Yeah, fully. Because I guess Darren and those guys were kind of that would have been 2007 or something.
Even earlier.
2008 when they were like popping.
I reckon 2005.
It's kind of like. Yeah, right. Yeah. So like, for us growing up, like 2005, so I was 7 years old then. So like kind of when I was a teenager, it didn't really seem like an option to be a free rider coming from Australia. It was racing, or it was pretty much racing. Like if you wanted to do something on a downhill bike, like, I don't know, it wasn't, if you wanted to be sponsored, it just didn't really seem that achievable to be doing your own thing, I guess. And I think that's something that social media changed a lot as well, because, well, it completely changed it because it opened up a lot of riders and got them out there without needing to do as like crazy shit that was in New World Disorder or something, for example.
Yeah, for sure. So when you were over in Europe racing World Cups, you obviously got a taste for bike parks and trails that were built for other than just getting down the hill as fast as you could.
Yeah, I think I definitely got a taste of it. Like the year before I raced World Cups in Whistler, I got a taste of it, but it was kind of like, it wasn't really a focus. It was just more like, oh, that's sick, like A-Line or Dirt Merchant or something. But then I was still really equally as stoked on the crazy rough downhill tracks. I just loved going fast and getting loose and drifting, and it didn't really stand out that much. And then I think it was the year that me and Baxter traveled. We based in Moorseen for a while, and we're pretty much just riding jump trails every day. And then after we did a few more World Cups. And then after the World Cups, after World Champs, we went to the UK and did a trails trip. And we rode just BMX. I had a BMX and he had his hardtail. And that was, I think, I don't know if he feels the exact same, but for me, looking at both of us, I think that was what really changed our outlook on a lot of things that trip, because we both that was the time where it went from racing downhill to all of a sudden we wanted to ride jumps to all of a sudden we were focusing on bike park riding nearly. Like it was more of a priority to go visit these sick parks. And I think that was because of going around the UK and going to all these crazy trail spots and seeing all these insane jumps. Then it was like, oh, we can actually do the same on our downhill bikes. And it was like, that was kind of that step of getting a taste of it from BMX to then deciding that we could do it on the mountain bikes as well and live that kind of trails lifestyle of digging and riding and hanging out with mates. But you could do it both sports.
Yeah, and
pretty cool.
Trails wise, they do it properly in England. I mean, like the volume of good sets of trails in a small area is so crazy. Like, you can drive like 40 minutes any direction. And there's good trails sort of in every little pocket of England. It's fucking insane. Like, and the quality is so high.
So I flew into London a few days before Baxter, and me and my dad bought this van. But when I got off the plane, I was like, oh, so my mate Sam picked me up. We were driving down the highway, and I was like, oh, I really want to see some dirt jumps when I'm here. Do you know that set that's like, it's like dark brown dirt and has some crazy rock walls and some ponds and stuff? It's always in like a heap of the old DVDs and magazines and stuff in dirt. And he was like, what, Leatherhead? And I was like, oh, I don't know. It's just like Jimmy Pratt's spot.
Yeah, Leatherhead.
He's like, oh, dude, that's like, yeah. He's like, dude, that's like, we're going to drive past it. It's like 2 minutes from my house. We can stop if you want. And I was like, fuck, no way. Surely not. And like, surely he's talking about a different spot. And then, yeah, sure enough, like 5 minutes later, we pull off the highway, pull over in this like crappy little sketchy looking side road, get out of the car, walk across, and Jimmy and everyone are all hanging there. It's like mid-session.
Oh, dude.
And it was crazy. It was just like a random thought in my head getting off the plane. Like, oh, I'd really like to see that. They're somewhere in England because I'd never been to England. So all of a sudden we're there like 10 minutes later. And that's kind of how that trip happened. I got talking with Jimmy and Ralph and Elliot and a few of the other locals. And then I was like, oh, I really want to ride these now. So the whole World Cup season, we're just thinking about that. Baxter, I had my bike sent over from Australia, like my BMX. And then nice. Baxter bought a hardtail, and we're like, yeah, we're going to stay an extra month. And then pretty much got the tour from Jimmy and the locals after that. And they just showed us all these crazy spots. And it was like every 5 minutes, there was another spot that was bigger than any spot I'd ever seen. It was hectic.
No, it's ridiculous. It's, yeah.
You'd been there? You've been there?
Yeah, I mean, it was way back in 2010 I was there. So like,
yeah,
I think Leatherhead had just started. Like it was like one short line, which still was amazing. And then there was, the Woodyard had just sort of was still pretty fresh, but like then it was more like in that London area, there was Chertsey, which gone now, but that was probably my ultimate. Like I went there. I'd seen that in magazines. Like James Brooks was an influence on me for years and years and years. Like he was just an amazing builder and really good rider. Rode for S&M as well. And I was like, fuck, I'm going to, and then there was Epsom as well, which is again, all sort of around that sort of London general zone, and like all just such quality. And like the scenes, like everyone was so fucking chill and cool and like welcoming.
So awesome,
like, yeah. And then, I was with the Shrewsbury guys, so a bit further up, sort of Midland, bit northern, and they had their spot in Shrewsbury, which was incredible as well. So we did like a 2-week just drive around, kind of hitting everything we could. It was 2010, so I mean I haven't been back since. But seeing, I mean, the Woodyard gets like, I guess, a lot of coverage from as far as like all the spots over there, and like seeing that place evolve has been fucking mental. So. Yeah,
it's hectic now, eh?
Yeah. Oh, dude, yeah.
That's where our mine and Baxter's van has ended up there. Actually, one of the Woodyard locals owns it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Now, somehow it ended up there, and I saw it in one of the Woodyard edits, and I was tripping out. I was like, "Fuck, that's definitely our van."
Oh man, that's so
yeah. It turned out a mate, Weeksy.
Oh yeah,
Tim Weeks.
Oh, yeah.
So Weeksy bought it off me, and then. Sold it to someone there, and now one of the boys there has it. It's pretty funny.
Oh, dude, that's the best. Yeah, Bentley let us. We met up with him, and they let us camp there the night. So we like just set up our tent in the middle of the trails and fucking just camped there and had it to ourselves. Got up in the morning, and then the morning dew.
Cool view to wake up to.
Oh, dude, seeing the morning dew settle over the jumps, and like waking up hungover, thinking like. What planet in that crazy white dirt? Like, what planet are we on? This is fucking insane. But I guess
that's an insane spot.
Dude, yeah. I guess from that sort of, you and Baxter extended your stay and wanted to ride trails longer. And I guess now like getting that sort of, I guess itch, from that trip, and now moving to today, seeing where you're both at now in terms of you both ride BMX as well as mountain bikes, you both shred on everything, and you're both kick-ass trail builders. Like it's a crazy sort of like to think. Like if you think back about that, does that trip you out a bit?
Yeah, a little bit. I guess it's pretty cool because there was definitely a lot of nights where we're like laying in bed right next to each other in the back of the van, like talking about shit. And it's pretty cool that we kind of that year, I think we both kind of took a step. I had like a lot of sponsor problems the year before, and kind of realized that, I don't know, I thought what I'd always like wanted is like a pro rider and have all these sponsors. It actually wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to be a bike rider, not like if I make a salary out of it, it's a bonus. But at the end of the day, I want to be riding the products that I want, and I want to be doing the shit that I want with no expectations to an extent, you know, like. And I think that was definitely the reality check for both of us during that trip, that we're like, wait, what are we doing? Like, we want to be at the trails. We don't want to be at this World Cup getting an email the following day, like explaining why we got a bad result to one of our sponsors or something. It was kind of like just a big wake up call. And we decided, and there was definitely, I can definitely say it for me, but I'd say it was the same for him. There was definitely after that a few years of battling, where it was weird. I went from having so many sponsors to like, oh shit, I actually have to like be pretty careful with my money. You know, I still want to travel to all the same places, but I'm paying for all my bikes. It's a pretty hard balance to keep a high level of riding as well as working full time and paying for all that. So I think for both of us, it was a pretty challenging kind of lifestyle to try and achieve, but it's definitely seems like it's working out for both of us now, which is pretty sick to see, because it's just like a kind of salty talk in our heads once upon a time in the back of the van to actually it's happened now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, nice. So what was the big push to start building trails? Like, I mean, you know, you obviously talked about it and you rode all these amazing spots, BMX and mountain bike. When was the kick for you to go, yeah, okay, I could get paid to build some trails?
It was never really like a kick, to be honest. It was when I was young, we always, my dad didn't work for like 2 years. And he was riding, and he had a mate's bobcat, and he was building jumps in our backyard, like for himself and for me. And I'd get home from school every day, and there'd be new jumps. And then all of a sudden, they started getting like more and more jumps. Yeah. Yeah, it was a pretty like roach move when I just come roach the jumps after school. But yeah, it got to the point where there was quite a few jumps in the yard. And then our neighbor was like, oh, he was working for a civil company or something. And he was like, oh, I've got some landfill. Do you guys want some dirt to make some jumps? And I was like, oh, yeah. And he's like, oh, how much do you want? He's like, oh, just bring as much as you can. And then ended up being 350 truckloads of dirt. And the whole, like, we had a 2-acre block, and the whole backyard was just, it went from like nice grass to just like the whole property was just piles of dirt. So then it went from like having a few jumps to like all of a sudden we could legit build like whatever we wanted. And I think that's really when I was pretty lucky. Like we really got the buzz of digging and riding, and that's where that lifestyle kind of came. And then over the years, it changed from having like, there was a set of jumps that you had to pedal from the top of my street down the whole street and bunny hop into the driveway and pedal down the driveway past the house and in, to like, it slowly progressed to just having a set of trails basically. So then by the age of like 12, I was living a kind of trails lifestyle. I was always down the back in the trees, digging jumps, building, watering, I don't know, as you do at the jumps. And then it kind of, then I decided I wanted to be more in the woods after seeing like a few cool spots around the place. So I built this cool like pump track zone down in a reserve behind my house. And then we also had a trail spot up the road in another bushland. And then I think just it was right when the kind of the Instagram started, like the first year or two of Instagram popping off, and someone saw photos or videos of this pump track when I was 15, and I was working in a bike shop at the time. So I left school when I was 14, and then was working in an online warehouse for a bike shop full time. And then I got this message, or my dad got a message from someone's friend saying like, "Hey, we saw this pump track Remy's built. Would he want to build one in South Australia for a job through this company?" And I was like, "For sure." Like, and then I flew down, and it kind of went from like just a one-off job to kind of progressing from there. Like I was 15 in South Australia by myself doing this job with some mates, and then it kind of like I got to know those guys. That was Trailscapes, so I got to know those guys, and then for Gary, and then it went from I worked for them for a little while, did a few other jobs up in Queensland, and then it went to then I just started meeting people. I got a job for Dirt Art, worked for them for a year or so. I was working with Nathan then, which was a real trip because it went from like looking up to Nathan my whole life to all of a sudden I was working with him. It was pretty sick. And then I worked with World Trail, and it was kind of like every year I got home from a trip, basically from the age of kind of 15 to 19. That's when I started to go like international events and stuff. I just be on the radar, kind of looking around for trail work and ask people, and there was always a different company close to home, so I swapped and changed through a lot of different companies. And then it just all fell into place, really. I think it's like you look at a lot of privateer downhill riders now as well, and a lot of them are trail builders, because usually there's a boss like Gary that he's been in the position of a rider, and he understands, and he'd be like, yeah, fair enough, like not going to stop you from going to Europe. So it's a pretty lenient job.
Yeah.
And it always was. Same with Glenn Jacobs. It was very lenient, and they all understand and are really cool with us taking off. Or Nathan, he was like, yeah, obviously you're going to go race the World Cups. Like you have to, kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of how it became a career, I guess. It just fell into place through a text message, and then it just became kind of the obvious, easy job that I dug every day anyway. Like I was at the trails every single afternoon, even after trail building all day at work. And it just became a thing, really. And then it wasn't until like the last 3 years especially that I started kind of helping with some bigger jobs like Crankworks or Nico with some of the fest stuff. And it started becoming more of like an actual, not advertised, but it definitely gets my trail building as like from a company side of view definitely gets advertised more now, where I kind of just did it as a job before and then showed my own personal shit at the trails on the internet or to people. But same with my riding, I guess. It all kind of just fell into place for doing it for a long time. Which is, I don't know, that's how I like. I don't like asking for shit. I'd prefer just to do stuff and let it fall into place. It's easier.
That sounds like building, man. You build it and it happens.
Yeah, exactly. You build it, you have to ride it.
So I guess if you're building stuff in your backyard and you're getting deliveries of dirt and you're getting a few hundred tons of dirt there, but then you go to shifting how much dirt at Fest Series, how big are the jumps there and how much dirt goes into one of them?
A lot. Yeah, I think it's like that's why those jumps are kind of in different countries, like in Belgium or South Africa or something, because I'm pretty sure someone told me that the South African one, they had to get a mining permit for it because it's so much dirt.
Fuck.
Like it's actually pretty unexplainable how much dirt it is.
Yeah.
And how big the jumps are until you go there and see them. It's like, I guess it's like anything, you see it on the internet, it looks big on the videos. But then when you're sitting there in a 20-ton digger and it still looks big, you're like, whoa, it's pretty hectic.
Yeah.
It's definitely a it's been pretty cool over the last few years when I'm at those kind of events and giving a hand with bits and pieces or building the slope style at Rotorua and Innsbruck with the Elevate crew, and felt pretty like nearly fake being there. It was like, I don't know, from going from digging in the backyard with Dad to like all of a sudden you're building. You're not only am I riding in the events, but I'm also building the events that I was watching when I was a kid. It's like a pretty weird feeling, like building and riding it, because it was goal just to be there and maybe ride it one day. Now it's like I've actually got say in what I want to build and what I get to ride. It's pretty crazy.
And not everyone gets that. I mean, like there are so many pro riders that like, you know, like you having input and being able to put your hands on what everyone's riding is like a giant compliment as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's pretty sick too. I feel like it really helps with the situation as well. Like it, obviously, like a lot of the riders are just my mates now. So at Crankwork, say all the boys are coming up to suss out the course, and it's pretty sick because I can actually talk to them because I'm going to ride it as well, and it's pretty cool being able to explain a feature to one of the riders, and they know that you're on the same page with how you're going to hit it, kind of thing. Like I could say to one of the slopestyle guys, like, oh yeah, I reckon you just land wide on this jump before and don't pump the flat bottom and then roast the lip as hard as you can and it should work, or something, you know? And they were like, it's quite cool being able to have that communication as a friend to the riders, as well as, you know, like sometimes you turn up to an event and you have no idea who's built it. It's quite cool, like having that kind of inside touch to be able to talk and feel and see what the riders want, or I don't know. It's quite a good feeling, I think. Like quite satisfying once it's all done.
Are you hitting it first?
Definitely usually the first few riders. I don't know. I'm getting better at it. I used to be really confident with testing shit, and then a few years ago, I had that crash at Loose Fest in Belgium and had a really bad injury, and it kind of, I lost a lot of confidence in myself with riding it. I really struggle with trusting my speed now on jumps without following someone in, or at least watching someone else hit it. I'm really like, even if I fully know what to do, it's just like a weird mental block that I have now. It's getting better. And I think especially the last year, since I took my chain off my downhill bike, it's helped so much, because it's kind of eliminated one thing that I can do into a jump. Now I can only brake. I can't decide if I want to pedal. So it's making me like a little bit more confident.
Putting a half-ass crank in before a big gap's never going to go well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I guess it's similar to like brakeless BMX, you know, in terms of like it's eliminating this element. So it's like it kind of puts you more in tune with the moment, and kind of you got to trust yourself a bit more, and sort of helps you to, I guess, commit.
What's that with, sorry?
Like, I mean, comparing the chainless thing to what, like brakeless BMX or brakeless, you know, hardtail.
Oh, fully.
Yeah. Like there's a parallel
definitely.
there.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. Yeah, like you see the real sick bowl riders and they're riding brakeless because they need to commit then.
Yeah.
With the speed they've got. And I think it's a pretty similar thing, and I think a lot of people just think it's like fucking weird, but running no chain, but I like it. It's like, it's helped me so much with the mental stuff, as well as like it forces you to build it good. Like, you know, you have to build it good, because I need to rely on it, the build working good, to actually get over the jumps, which is something that I really like. And I think that's such a important thing with trail building, is really like utilizing the land, especially in mountain bike or trails, because it's like the better you use the land, the more unique the build is. Like, you go to the craziest trails in the world, and they're always going to be the spot that have really used the hill good, or like the terrain good, or the undulation, you know. So it's a pretty cool like factor to throw in, to need to like nearly have that kind of trails BMX mindset of like, it needs to be perfect to make the next set kind of thing. And it's kind of puts you in the same position for a downhill track.
So you go from a big bike with big travel, big tires, and then you're hitting similar size jumps on a 20-inch bike. And it's a shorter you know, it's a shorter tool for the job. At the speed, like, I mean, I saw those clips you're hitting Dream Track, you know, in sessions, and you're just floating it on a 20-inch.
I think that what's that?
Well, how do you get your head around the shorter bike with 80 psi tires bouncing off every little pebble coming into a 40-foot gap?
So the first year we started riding all the mountain bike stuff on our BMXs, I was riding a Steadfast, an FBM, which I got off a friend, Phil Mitchell, in Sydney.
Oh dude, shout out to Phil.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of his old frames that I scabbed off him one night when we were having beers, and then I didn't give it back, which I feel a bit bad about, but still got it though, so it's in safe hands. But yeah, I set that up originally, and we were riding those, and now I look back on that, and that was really sketchy, eh? Like, I had the old Aitken tires, so they were pretty chunky, and they had good grip when you locked up. But the main problem we were having was, like, I was running chrome rims, and you're going pretty quick, and the rims would heat up with the rim brake to the point that the brake just stopped working. Like, the rim was too hot for the brake to work anymore. It was just slipping. So that was kind of we worked that out pretty quick, because it had some pretty big moments where it was like landing a jump full speed, and usually you have hydraulic brakes and knobby tires to slow down, but we were just like out of we were just like out of control, skidding like both feet off, and most of the time just no shirts and just in shorts. Like, I don't know, it's like we're trying to replicate our trails atmosphere, so it felt, I don't know, when you dress up in all the gear, it felt like you were really doing something gnarly. So we tried to tame it back and just wear our normal clothes, so that it felt like not as scary, like you weren't dropping in to kill yourself kind of thing. But the second we worked that out pretty quick. So then now my bike that I actually have, I'm still running it, is it's made by Dutch Bikes in the US.
Oh, Mike, yeah, DEFCON.
And from Mike. So he made mine, Kyle, and Hamish's frame. So basically I got like the Geo, a mix between a Steadfast CCR and Black Magic. And it's basically like, out of each of those frames, the slackest, lowest of each version, basically. And then I just met the standover between a Steadfast and Black Magic in the middle. I think it's 9.25, and then got disc brake, and it's got some oversized tubing on it, and it's definitely more built for those kind of jumps. So I run 160 rotor on the back. I have a 4-pot Hope brake on it, so the strongest Hope brake you can get. And then we actually let our tires down quite a bit. It's pretty weird, like, because, if you run like 30 PSI on your BMX, if you roll up a gutter, it feels like it's going to roll off the rim. It's like, it feels so soft, but it's really, I find it so strange because like we'll be sitting in the car park, we'll all lower our tires down to 40 PSI, but then, and if you got to do like a 180 on the street and you feel like you're going to crash because the rim is going to roll off. But then they feel normal on the jumps, and that's what kind of gives us the grip and takes away a little bit of the grit and shit. So it doesn't feel that bad. It's kind of normal, but it's definitely, when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Like last summer, I forgot to let my tires down, and I landed like the slightest bit on an angle, and just front wheel tucked, and I broke both my wrists.
Oh, fucking hell.
It was like just a cruisy Tuesday arvo.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, man.
What are your thoughts?
Pretty,
Sorry, man.
Hey.
What are your thoughts on the fingers crossed stuff, having suspension or going back to the 80s vibe of suspension on the back?
Yeah, it's pretty sick. I've been talking with Ruben kind of since near when he started that, because I was pretty interested, because I think Mike was making Garrett's frames. And then I was kind of like between Mike, and then I think he must have talked to Garrett about my frame, or I don't know how it worked, but we ended up all chatting, and I've kind of been in contact with them the whole time. And then I was really interested to try it, because when we first built our bikes up, I got a set of 20-inch mountain bike kids tires that were chunky. They looked like a Maxxis Minion, but they were for my BMX, and we were riding the bike park, and that was kind of like that was actually a thing that me, Kyle, and Hamish were like trying to kick off. It was like a thing. We're like, let's try and ride our BMXs in the bike park and make it a thing. And that's why we got the bikes from Ike, and that was kind of our goals. So then, and see them take it they kind of took it to another step that we hadn't even thought of. We hadn't even thought of putting suspension on it. We were just thought the disc brake was a pretty big step.
Yeah.
So, I've always been super interested in it. I think it's awesome, eh? It's like, it makes sense to me. Like, it's just another discipline within riding.
For sure.
It's pretty cool. Actually, this year I rode Ruben's frame in Belgium a few weeks ago, actually.
Okay.
And it's a weird feeling. It's like, have you ridden one, Tom?
I rode, friend Shane got the Death Pack prototype one from over in the UK, but it's built out of a like a BSD, like a more modern BSD frame. And I think geometry wise, it wasn't sort of as sort of like suspension corrected to what, say, like Ruben's stuff is. So it still felt quite short and I mean, I only really rode it like once at the skate park, which, you know, didn't really do it any justice, but like it felt quite short and whippy. And I think we didn't have a shock pump, and like fucking didn't even know what we were doing. I mean, I built it for him and set the brakes up and everything, but like when it comes to suspension, I'm a total I'm useless. I don't really know anything about it. So I mean, I would like to try a longer, like better, you know, like a one that's set up a bit more, you know, appropriately for
designed properly for.
Yeah, I mean, that thing is like an engineering masterpiece with the you know, similar to Ruben stuff with the bottom bracket being inside of the sort of pivot and like all of that. I think it was just a bit too short in the rear end and a bit, you know, wasn't quite what I mean, but yeah, I mean,
right.
And also, like, I've never ridden mountain bikes either, so I've never owned a bike with suspension. Like, so I feel like if I was going to go down that road, I'd probably do something like more hardtail, rigid, like what you guys have done, you and Kyle's sort of setups, as opposed to that. But I mean, again, I've never really ridden mountain bike anything, so really want to, but I've never really had the chance. So
you took that out one day.
No,
didn't it?
No, that was a Maria you were testing for Revo.
Oh, yeah.
and I followed you down the hill and I broke the axle.
That's right.
my one mountain, I was wearing my Protect fucking helmet, and I was a bloody goon. But yeah,
it's like having a good time.
Oh, it was great. But
when I hopped on Ruben's one, it just it was what I was basically imagining, what I was hoping it would feel like, but I wasn't sure if it actually would. That's what it felt like. It was like you got on it and you're like, whoa, this thing's actually really good. Like I guess it's the only thing that's weird about it is that you need to accept that it is a completely different discipline to any of the other bikes. You know, it's the same difference between a mountain bike and a BMX. It's that difference again. And I think personally, like I want to get one for sure, but it's definitely, it is a fresh discipline, and you're going to have to build shit specifically for it. In my opinion, I think that like to really utilize it and make it good, you're going to have to like, you know, it's like having a BMX racetrack to a set of trails, you know, it's like that same difference. You're going to have to do it again. You're going to have to have like so I think that's going to be the next step of that bike is like, I guess if it takes off, and then bike parks are going to have to, or they're going to have to build stuff. Like Ruben's got a really good setup that it looks like he's built pretty specific for that bike. And I think like the audience that's going to buy that bike are probably pretty specific people that will have the heart to build his own anyway. So I think I reckon it'll take off. Hey, it's really cool.
Yeah, I dig it. I always get stoked when a new, fingers crossed, edit comes out. It's fucking awesome. I mean, I wish I lived somewhere near where I could actually, you know, go ride that sort of stuff. But you know, it's hard being locked in Sydney. But
especially at the moment.
I can't. We've got a 5K radius at the moment. We're not allowed outside of basically, and I've got 3 of the best skate parks in Sydney within that 5Ks, which is awesome. But I can't get my tires on any dirt. It's fucking like the racetrack's like 9Ks and I can't even go there, you know, like, stupid. Yeah.
Hey, we'll talk.
Man, that's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
No, can't go a 4 kilometer difference.
Yeah. Get cop a fucking 5.
It could be worse. At least you got 5, doc.
That's true. Yeah.
At least you got 5, doc.
Yeah. Pedaling distance from home too.
Pretty much trails.
Yeah. It's exactly. It's closest thing you're going to get on concrete in Sydney. So.
Yeah. Fully.
Hey, we're talking setup of bikes and different bikes. You're pushing that idea, I guess, on your mountain bike setup, but you're having like, and you're working on new parts. Like, give us a little insight into what you want to change up on mountain bikes, and I guess like you were talking about the Ruben style was a whole new style of riding, but what you've been doing, I guess, is starting to branch off into a new idea for mountain bikes.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely something that I've been working on for a while, is just different ideas in my head and trying to work out, I guess that's the unique thing about digging. You can kind of build if you get into the building, you can build anything, but then the next step is you need the equipment to ride it on. So it's kind of right now, it's kind of hard because the type of riding that I really want to push isn't actually really a type of riding. You know, people aren't building sets of trails for a downhill bike. But I guess like that's what the Fest series is, and that's why I love that. But the bikes are still like that latest edit that I did on the Gold Coast. They're not made to grind, for example, or like they're not fully designed to be as zippy and a steep lip as what a slope bike is or something. So I've been working with a dude down in Melbourne, Mick Williams, and we've been working on a few different concepts and designs and ways that we can change things. And I can't say too much because it's a bit hidden for now, but it's definitely something I've got in the works to kind of, it's not as, I guess it's kind of like what Ruben's doing, but in a mountain bike version, because right now, like, bikes aren't made for that, you know, the mountain bikes and downhill bikes, whatever, they're all they're made for what has been done in the last 20 years, and they're not designed for what we're doing now and what I want to push. And I don't know if it's like, I guess that's the beauty about riding. You can really be yourself and make and do what you want to do if you want to do it. It's pretty like you can express yourself in a different way, but it's a pretty tough balance when, especially with social media and everything now, like I think the way that companies and the websites and news and everything runs, it really nearly forces people into believing something and running shit that you don't need to run. Like, you know, you see some dude out in the forest riding a fat bike, e-bike, and you're like, do you even know why you've got fat tires? Like, and yeah, I think it's definitely mountain bikes coming to a point where it's going to change a lot in the next few years. And I think with the stuff that I'm working on changing, as well as a few others, it's going to really excel in that way. And it's exciting to see. Like, I think it's really cool that from like that, there's so mountain biking, because it's that sort of shit starting to pop up. I'm doing what I'm doing. Baxter's doing what he's doing. Nico Vink's doing what they're doing. Like, it's mountain bikes becoming a lot more respected from other parts of the sport, like BMX. Like, it was always so separated. Even my whole life growing up, it was like I had my trails friends and my downhill friends, and now the trails and BMX salty as dudes that always were like, why do you ride those things? Now they're all starting to ride them, and they're all real stoked on this kind of new generation of things, which is pretty cool to see, I reckon. It's like, gives me faith that we're starting to push it in a good direction.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you're going to grow up riding bike parks around the world that have got lift access, I mean, what happened in snowboarding? Snowboarding went from being kooky as to gnarly stuff with crazy stuff built that I guess reflects skateboarding. So I guess that's going to happen in mountain biking. I mean, I can see nubby with axle stubs coming out. I can see disc guards.
Yeah, fully. I think it's mountain bike. The way I always look at it, I always think of like Lords of Dogtown, the DVD or the movie. It's like when you watch Lords of Dogtown and all those dudes turn up at the skating comp and they're all going around in circles in lycra and shit and crazy colors, and they're all just wearing like cutoffs and
nerds,
normal clothes. Yeah. So I reckon that's like, and the same thing happened, I guess, in freestyle BMX probably. And it's like, it happens in every sport, but mountain bike's still so much newer that I think it's really about to go through that major change of like a lot of more like younger dudes that are a bit more rebellious, and they're like, why do we want to wear these horse riding clothes on our bikes? Like, we want to wear our normal clothes. And you know, like, it's kind of getting in that way that there's a lot of people being like, why are they wearing those crazy tight pajamas, colorful clothes when we can just wear normal shit? Yeah. And I reckon in the next 5 years, it's going to change a lot, and it's going to go through that same like kook to badass sport again, kind of like it already went through it from the 90s to early 2000s when all the badass World Cup riders were happening in like 2005. And then I think it's going to go to that next stage very shortly of like, it'll turn into like a snowboard skate culture of becoming a very, and it's obvious, like you go into town now and it's a mountain biking's an actual sport. When I was a kid, if you saw someone drive past, it was like you knew them. Now it's a general sport that everyone knows about, and it's like it's a public thing, which I think is a pretty key part of that change in the sport happening, where it's going to just become like a divided kind of situation of the kooks and the badasses kind of thing.
Sure, man. I mean, you're in the epicenter, I guess, in Queenstown, so every second person's got a mountain bike. Yeah, the lag's kicking in. Ooh.
What was that, sorry?
Hey, we're back. I
Glad,
guess
yeah.
you're in the epicenter in Queenstown. Every second dude would have a bike.
Yeah, fully. It's like if you don't have a mountain bike, it's like you're a skier, a snowboarder, or a bike rider, if you hear kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what it, and that's why I moved here because I love it. It's like you're always surrounded around it, but it's been, even here, it's crazy. Like if I went to the gondola 5 years ago, I'd know everyone in line. There was like 10 people, but now it's like there'll be 80 people in line, and I know like 3 people. It's actually pretty insane that it's becoming such it's just a normal sport now. Like all the kids are doing it, mom and dads are doing it. Like a lot of like what you'd imagine old golfer looking to, like golf players and shit, they're all doing it. It's just like the trend. It's the thing to do now.
Yeah, and I remember when I went to Queenstown back in 2017, it was the only time I've ever been there. But I remember like we got into town and like go to the bar, get some food, and literally just seeing like legit amazing mountain bikes just like chilling out front of the bar. And like I was like, where the fuck am I? This is like in Sydney, you only see like legit bikes as you go to the riding spots. You know, you don't just see them hanging out in town, you know, next to the cafe or, you know, the burger joint or whatever. Like
Fully.
Fucking blew my mind.
Yeah, like you'll drive through town and see like a 10 grand downhill bike just with a padlock around a light post.
Yeah.
And like it's just normal. It's like someone's ridden to work on a full blown downhill bike.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's a trip, hey. Like I still think that like every time I go into town, like you go to a pub or something, there's just like 100 grand worth of enduro bikes out the front, just not locked up, just like in the rack. It's just normal. No one cares. No one's stealing them because it's just what is there every day. Like it's just a normal thing.
Part of the local culture.
That's it. It's definitely a trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long you been in Queenstown?
Well, been here on and off for 7 years now, I'd say. Basically, I was doing summers here I did my first summer when I was, when was it? In 6 years. So it's 2015. I did my first summer.
Yeah.
And then, I was just coming for 3 months a year. And then in 2017, I had that bad accident at Loose Fest. And then I really wanted to get back riding. And I was kind of like, well, if I want to get back to riding, I kind of need to be and get to the level I want, like around home on the Goldie. It was either really easy stuff or gnarly shit that me and Dad had built. So there was no in-betweener. So that's when I was there. I'm going to actually move to Queenstown properly, because if I want to take this step and get my riding back to where I need to be, I need to have that full range of bike park to really kind of work my way back up the sport. So yeah, it's kind of since about 2018 I've been here permanent pretty much.
Gotcha.
And yeah, since then just always been trail building for work, through Elevate trail building, and then riding a lot. And then a few months ago, me and my friend Jacob started our own trail building company now. So that's kind of like a dream come true. We're just working for ourselves and riding, and that's pretty awesome.
Nice. What's the name of the company?
Flux Trail.
Sweet.
So it's like the word flux is like a flow capacity line or whatever. So it's kind of
The flux capacitor from fucking Back to the Future.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are gonna rock up in a DeLorean. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. That'd be a pretty good work truck.
Dude.
For a digger on the back.
Is Gorge Road still just there?
Yep. Yeah, so Gorge went through a few problems the last few years. I guess since over the last kind of 5 years, town's changed a lot. It went from just a small town to, I guess in Australia, it's kind of like probably the same sort of thing that Byron Bay or something went through. It went from a small cruisy town to all of a sudden people realized that how much value and how much potential is here. And it's grown so much over the years that there's not much infrastructure for the actual capacity of people that were moving here. So Gorge went from kind of an out of town spot to all of a sudden now it's prime real estate. Like it's only a kilometer from the center of the town or the beachfront. So it's, yeah, like when they started the spot 10 years ago, it was out of the way. And now it's like a prime spot that the council needs or wants back, I guess. So I went from having like multiple year leases on the spot through the council to they were only giving 1 year leases at a time, which like you guys would know how much digging goes into a set of trails. If you're digging for a whole winter, especially in an alpine climate where it snows, the jumps get destroyed every year, even if they are tarped. It's like a lot of hard work to get them running again. So to have only a year lease, but you're going to be digging for 8 months of that lease is pretty a hard commitment, you know? So that's been the situation the last like 3 years now. There's just been 1 year leases, and that's why there's been a lot of talk about it on social media and the internet, and everyone every year it's like come up like, oh, it's going to go, this is the last year. And it's because there was only 1 year leases happening, and they could have kind of they had the authority, I guess, to pull the pin on it at any time, which was a real shame. But yeah, last year it kind of became a actual kind of permanent answer that it was going to get bold. And the reasoning was they wanted to use the land for infrastructure storage purposes. So they wanted to store all shit there to upgrade the town, I guess. Like, I don't know whether it be like pavers or bricks, and just basically a massive storage yard for the town for all of their council work. And then there was a big petition. All the social media started blowing up. Everyone was kind of arguing over it, trying to work out ways to save it. But at the end of the day, like the town's running out of room. They needed somewhere, I guess, like from the council point of view, it's a priority. They need to be able to, you know, have a good environment for the people to actually live in. So it was a pretty tough balance to have like Gorge as a kind of, I guess, it was kind of like a bonus on living, you know. It was like a special little dessert on the side kind of thing. So yeah, there was a lot of risk of it kind of going, but after all the months of everyone kind of showing the support, and we had like a lot of council meetings, and between me, Nathan Greenwood, Lowell Alfreds, like Henry, all the local dudes, are kind of everyone put in like a real fair share of their time and met up with the right people at the right time. And I guess I finally got across to the council of how important it was as a community asset for not only the town, but for the whole of the world. It's like, I think for people that aren't involved in riding, they didn't realize that it's actually like a global destination that's really changed BMX to an extent. Like, so yeah, that was pretty cool. They finally, this year it's there for good now. Like, it's not going anywhere. So that was,
that's the best.
It was pretty cool to finally get. Yeah, it basically was just a heap of meetings and shit, and now it's like, all right, yeah, we see your point. We fully got across to them, and now it's permanent. Like, it's no longer like multiple year leases and stuff. It's there. So that's pretty awesome. Like, it's cool. We'll be able to do some laps together, Tom.
Dude, when I was there, I actually went to Queenstown for a wedding, and it was sort of April, so it was starting to get cold, and like we were staying far up. We were staying pretty close. Like we drove past Gorge to get into town from where we were staying at like the Airbnb, and I probably had 2 or 3 opportunities to actually like get on my bike, like in that kind of 4 or 5 days I was there, because the wedding, you know, there's a bunch of stuff going on, and like the first trip into town to go get food, and like just driving past, and like I kind of just want to jump out of the car while, you know, like while I'm driving, just fucking, you guys walk the rest of the way into town to get beers, and I'll fucking stay here and like marvel at the splendor, you know, like it was just, it's like a magical place. I think also like it's, I mean, big shout out to you know, to Lowell and to Nathan and the crew. Like I think they've made, because it's such a big like exposure, global, everyone who rides a bike knows about it, like on a grand scheme like level, it's making people has made people make their jumps better, like across the globe.
I think that was definitely the first spot that was ever really like put out on the internet and social media that had that new square style of jump. So like it really, I reckon that was the spot that really marketed that style of like the modern trails look. Obviously it was a thing, but that was the one that really got that kind of across.
Most trail spots were sort of like underground and not trying to get blown up and not have that exposure, whereas Gorge is just, you know, public spot and everyone's seeing it, you know. So
it was like the first kind of public spot that had the underground vibe to it, of
fully
really good quality, good jumps, big and good quality, and a solid crew.
I couldn't believe my first afternoon there, because that's when Joe Simpson was living there, and he's, you know, one of my favorite humans. Like we met up with him after work, and it was, I don't know, like just after lunch. Then by the time so like 3 or 4 o'clock rolled up, and all the other locals knocked off work, and I hadn't, you know, I was just sort of sitting back watching, and I couldn't fucking believe it. It was like I felt like I couldn't ride a bike. I'm sitting there, and everyone just like slipping and sliding and transferring, and I was like, I feel like I've never ridden before. Like, it took me like a couple of sessions to sort of like, I'd land and be like, I don't even know which lip I'm facing. You know, like fuck, I've got lost in a map.
You always see that. I guess I was the exact same my first few sessions. I was just like, I guess losing my mind because I couldn't believe I was actually there, and then like. But I was just like so overwhelmed with how many options and transfers, and then on top of that, how high the level of riding was every day. Like it's like you think of the best session that you would have had this year at.
We lost audio there for a second. I think
lost it, man.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, man, back on. Oh, good.
Is that good?
Hey, back. Yep.
I don't know why it's doing that.
It'll just be freaking overloading. Someone else is watching fucking Netflix, and we suffer.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky. I live out of phone reception and shit, so it's pretty bad internet here.
So you're like way out of Queenstown?
Yeah, I'm on the road up towards Glenorchy in Bob's Cove, so it's kind of at the last little outer suburb of Queenstown, I guess. So it's about 15 minutes out of town.
Yep.
But a lot more chill. It's just like, I don't know, I lived in share houses and stuff right in Queenstown for a couple of years, and it's a pretty hectic lifestyle.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, it's like living in Whistler or something. It's like, it's constantly moving. There's constantly people coming in and out of the house. People always want to go out. There's always an excuse to go out in town for beers. And
yeah.
Now I live a bit out of town. It's kind of like, I don't know, I can kind of carry on with my life a little bit.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Well, now we're back on audio. Maybe, all right, I guess basing yourself in NZ and doing some trail building was all kicking off, and you were traveling the world. But then I guess your beanie spells it out. Red Bull started knocking. How did all that come about?
So I originally started talking to Red Bull in 2015, and it was pretty funny, actually. It was the last kind of It was like a Red Bull roast it, but it was like an undercover kind of roast it that they ran in 2015 after Farm Jam.
Yep.
And the year before this, it was 2016, sorry. So in 2015, Nathan Greenwood was working with Red Bull a little bit. And he kind of put me in connection with the New Zealand dude. And he was like, oh, yeah, they're going to watch you a little bit. And yeah, we'll get you in touch here and there. And you might get to know them. And then the following year, Nathan always said to me he'll judge me as a rider when I turn up to Gorge on a BMX. So then the next,
sounds like that's...
Yeah, I was on a hardtail the first year. So the next year I went back on my BMX and I won best style in the BMX.
That's right. Yep.
At the roaster thing. And then there was a Red Bull dude there, like the NZ guy. So he sees me riding that. I start talking to him. We just, I don't know, general chat. And then a few weeks later, it was Cairns World Cup. And I just done qualifying. And I qualified second. And I'm like rolling through the pits. And I see this dude that I'd met at that event in Queenstown, the BMX event. He's like, oh, what are you doing here? And I was like, racing. Like, he's like, what, you ride mountain bikes as well? And I was like, yeah, like mainly. And then he was like kind of tripping out because he thought I was just a BMX rider. And he's like, oh, so how'd you go today, mate? Like, I think he just thought I was like having a crack. And I was like, oh, I got
at a World Cup.
Got second. Yeah. And then he was like, oh shit. Like, and then yeah, and then the next day I got second in finals. And then had like a good conversation with him, and I did some filming with Red Bull that week. They asked me if I wanted to be a part of this project they were doing in Cairns. And then, yeah, just started talking to them. And it was always, from there, it progressed to chatting to them as a racer, as a downhill racer.
Yeah.
And then they said they were going to keep an eye on me and just like work towards some goals together. And then it went kind of quiet for a little bit there. The year that me and Baxter traveled, we were, I was doing some stuff for them, like just trying to get some random content and things for them, and they were helping me out with a few connections. And then the following year, when I went to the kind of more free ride stuff, it a little bit more. It went a bit more quiet. I didn't hear from them too much, but it was still, the connection was there. And then when I crashed at Loose Fest, they reached out to me and offered help with my medical, and they helped me a load. Like, if it wasn't for them, I don't think I would be riding at the level I am now. Like, they saved me with the physios that they got me in connection with and the doctors they put me in touch with. I definitely owe it to Red Bull for getting me back to where I am now, 100%. But yeah, then it carried on. It kind of went quiet again for a little while, and then I kind of like, I fully stopped racing at this stage, and I always thought that Red Bull were interested in me as a racer. And I kind of like, as my whole life, it was always like, that's, I guess, the dream probably in like any extreme sport. Like, Red Bull's kind of like, you think of that helmet and you're like, I want to get that helmet when I grow up, kind of thing. So it's kind of like a weird one to swallow, but I kind of accepted the fact that it probably wasn't going to happen anymore. When I stopped focusing on racing, I kind of like, I was just, I don't know, just thoughts would run through my head here and there. I hadn't heard from them in a year or so, and I was like, oh, maybe it's not going to happen. And then anyway, 2 years went on. I went back to Loose Fest, and I won the event. And just like one of the first things that I did, I just went and Kyle, who from Red Bull Australia, who helped me with a lot of my, with all the doctors and everything, I just sent him a message. Like, I just sent him a photo of my trophy, and I just like thanked him for, I sent him one and my physio that he aligned me with, Chris Brady, and I just for getting me here, boys. Like, stoked, like, appreciate you guys being the ones that got me back to where I wanted to be, kind of thing. And then Kyle was like, oh yeah, I don't know, stoked. And then a few days later, he randomly messaged me and was like, hey mate, can you check your message requests? There should be a message from a guy there. He wants to arrange a meeting with you. And I was like, what's he talking about? And then I opened it. It was one of my manager. And yeah, it went from there. We just started chatting more and more. We had a few meetings. I flew over to Sydney, and it was kind of like nothing was ever said about me actually riding for them. It was kind of just like working together to get some stuff going and maybe produce some cool content or get some video ideas going. And it was nothing, I don't know, maybe for them, but in my head it was kind of just helping each other kind of work the sport in the direction we want to see Australian mountain biking go in over the next few years, and working on some ideas together. And then yeah, we were still chatting on and off. We went a little bit quiet for a few months, and then I had the shittest day at work one day, like so shit. I was digging a jump trail in Queenstown, and I just got stuck on this stump, and I was just like, yeah, just like, I don't know, if you've dug out a bad stump, you know what it's like. And I remember like getting back to my workmate's house, and it was just before Crankworks. So like out the front, like Casey Brown and R-Dog and a few other riders were all out the front, like chilling at the house. And I was like pretty pissed off because I was like, far out, these guys are just loving life riding the bike park, and I've just had this shock.
Fucking stump.
Like, yeah, and I was just thinking, I was like, these guys come and ride these trails, and I'm just busting my back digging, and I was just like having one of those bad days. And then I got a random message from my manager, and was like, hey mate, can you give me a call? I need to ask you something. And I was just like, I was already in a bad mindset from the day at work, and I was like, oh, what's he gonna say? Like, what have I? Surely I've done something wrong, or I was kind of just like in a shit mood. Call him, and I'm like, yo, how's it going? He's like, just chatting away, just a normal chat, and he was just like, hey, do you want to ride for Red Bull? And I was like, yeah, like, kind of like, did I really just hear that? Like, and I was like, yeah, like, for sure. And he was like, welcome to the team, mate. And I was just standing there, like, in my mate's bedroom, because it was the only spot that was quiet, and all his riders were out in the living room and shit. And I was standing there, like, in disbelief, like, whoa, did that phone call just happen? Like, tripping out. And then I went to, I just couldn't believe what had just happened, basically. Like, the phone call ended pretty quick, and then I was on my way to Gorge for a session. I did like 2 laps, and I couldn't ride. I was just like, had so many thoughts in my head. I had to go home, and I just went and sat at home for the afternoon because I was just like tripping out. Yeah, I just needed some alone time to like take in what I just heard. And then, yeah, it basically, like, this was a few weeks before Crankworks, so that was kind of like that verbal chat, but it was nearly like, it was such a dream in my head that I was like, is it actually going to happen? Like, I hadn't heard anymore for like a week or two, and I was like, did that like really happen? Like, and then I linked up with the New Zealand managers, because this was right at the start of COVID, so the Aussie dudes couldn't fly to Crankworks. So they introduced me to the New Zealand dudes, and we're kind of hanging out during the week and doing some stuff. And I was course building then, so I was pretty flat out running around building and maintaining between events and shit. And I was just about to drop in. It was right before finals of slopestyle. and I was like on the start ramp about to drop, and we were doing the McGazza train. It's like the memorial train they run every year. Yeah. We're sitting there about to drop. The song starts, and it's like like about to get in. I get a phone call, and I'm like, shit, should I answer that? I was like, I look at the screen, and I was like, oh, it's the Red Bull dude. I better answer it, just like to see what he says. And he's like, mate, where are you? And I was like, dude, I'll call you back soon. I'm dropping in. Like, we're dropping in 10 seconds on the top of slope course. And just hung up. And put my phone in the pocket. Because, like, it was a, fully organized run. And it was all of the riders were all up there. And it was Tom, my boss, led it. And then I was second in the train. So, rode down, had, like, the sickest run. I was so stoked because I'd kind of been struggling on the jumps, and it was like really wanted to do a mean run in front of everyone because like it was right before the main event, so all the spectators and everyone were there. Had this sick run. I went over the last jump, did a kick out, and was like, yes, like nailed it. Went around the keyhole thing, the finish line, and as I like turn around the berm, and Brooke was just standing there with a helmet in his hand.
Fuck.
Hell yeah.
Like, no way. Like, yeah, it was a crazy experience. That is, I guess, just like the whole thing from going from like just a random request message in my Instagram with this dude that I had no idea who he was, to getting to know him, to that phone call, to that happening at Crankworks in front of all of my friends and my workmates and family, and it was like it was crazy. It was a pretty cool experience.
Hell yeah, man. Like, what? There's only 4 other Australian riders who got the helmet. Johnny Waddell,
yeah,
he got it first. I think Bowen might have got it just before Rennie. No, Rennie got it, then Bowen got one.
Yeah.
So who else? So yeah, no, maybe you're the 4th.
Yeah, I guess so. I think
that's
I'm like the first. I think the most like the part about that I'm most proud of, I guess, is when you go onto like my profile of like on Red Bull. It's like everyone has like their rider profile, their athlete profile on their website, and it says like their discipline, and mine is like it'd be like downhill racer or something. Mine's like downhill, freestyle, BMX, slope style, dirt jump, free ride. It's like, which I don't know, for me is really cool because I always told my dad that I want to be a bike rider. I don't want to be anything specific. It's like, to me, that's what it's all about. And to see like, it's such a trip to see like me as a Red Bull rider under a BMX. It's like, I'm not really like, I guess I ride BMX every day, but I don't see myself as the level of a standard Red Bull BMX rider. But I guess it's like quite cool to see that they notice that I dabble in all of it, and it kind of all adds together.
It's funny, man. Like I got 2 different calls over probably that whole pace of time that you were talking about, that year when nothing happened. Like, so Remy Morton, so what's he about? The first time, but then a year and a half later, it's like, so what do we do with Remy? He doesn't really race, and he rides all these different bikes, and they couldn't work you out. They had no idea. I'm like, well, yeah, he fucking rides everything. He digs everything. Just fucking sort him out. Anyway, it's just fucking hilarious because they did not know how to deal with you later on. They were just like, well, he's not really racing, but and I'm like, look how much coverage he's getting. He's riding all around the world. Just don't sweat it, man. Like, this is the future. That was funny as. I mean, they'd already made their mind up, but they were just quizzing. How do we do it? Because it isn't about racing.
Yeah, and that was kind of something that ran through my head as well. I was like, I guess I was thinking about it for a long time if it could happen still, and I was like, well, I don't know if it could, because I'm actually not like I'm not really specific in any sport now. I'm kind of just free ranging between all of it, which it's not really that much of a thing,
That's the best thing ever.
Plus you're you're creating new sort of sub genres within, you know, everything, you know, which is like fucking even cooler, you know, like
kind of mixing BMX and a downhill and BMX a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, you're before you. I mean, like, it was funny. I actually went through some of your old videos last night, just to kind of get my head around, you know, all this stuff. And I found your like 2016 edit, and it's pretty cool because like your mountain bike stuff, you're wearing the fluoro Troy Lee kit, but your 20-inch stuff, you're just, you know, cut off jeans, looking like Remy. And like, it's funny. There was that sort of line there, but now you've knocked down that line, you've erased it, and like culturally, like you're like sort of leading the way in terms of like, you don't have to be wearing the race kit or all the pads. Like, I mean, BMX, you know, core BMX people have sort of just worn the same sort of stuff forever and been pros, I guess. But in mountain biking, it's always has had that image, that kind of clean cut, you know, like
fully.
You know, and like, so you've sort of knocked down that barrier, which is fucking rad.
Well, the thing was that when I was young, like Dad he always prioritized his money for me as a rider, I guess, or my mum and dad, to have a good bike. Like I always just rode in jeans and a t-shirt, or cutoffs and a t-shirt, like downhill, anything. Like I just rode, they're just clothes, you know, I wore clothes to ride. I never had fancy kits or anything. And then that was kind of one of those, a major thing that I guess after like I stopped really racing and that, I was like, why am I actually wearing these? Like, I don't need to wear this when I'm riding BMX. Why do I need to wear this shit when I'm riding downhill? Like, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, I don't wear this shit when I'm walking to the bar. Like, you know, it kind of like, I just want to wear clothes. And it kind of, and then leading off that as well, it was really frustrating me. I think in mountain biking, there's such, you're brought up believing there's this image that you need to have this crazy kit to be a mountain bike rider. Like, and a lot of the kids, you see them at the races and they're wearing this like $400 Troy Lee kit with like the most low spec 661 composite helmet or something.
Oh God.
Or like ProTech helmet, you know, like they're running like this crazy kit, but then they've actually got really crap protection on their head, or like, and I was like, it's something that really frustrated me for a long time, because I guess growing up, I always had good helmets, but I never had a kit, and because Dad always like cared about my safety, I guess. But it seemed like that was like I'd be in the line at the bike park and there'd be like kids not bullying each other, but shit talking each other, like, oh, you nice jersey, like, and he's just wearing a t-shirt or something. You're like, yeah, but he's wearing a t-shirt, but he's got a Troy Lee helmet on. Yeah. You're wearing a full kit and you've got this crappy helmet on, like, and that was something that I've really tried to get across on with my riding the last few years, especially, is like, a lot of people say, oh, why aren't you wearing knee pads and stuff? And like, yeah, but I don't know, to me, like, I never wore knee pads riding dirt jumps, but then I'm running the best helmet you can buy, and I'm running a neck brace, which is something to me. And when I ride the big jumps, I always wear a chest plate. And to me, that's like the most important part of my body. That's what I want to protect. That's what I've had. All of my worst injuries have all been internal injuries, and my neck and collarbones and stuff. So it's like, I've really tried to market that as well, that it's kind of, you don't need all this fancy bling shit to be a good rider or to be safe. Like, you just wear what you want to wear, but make sure you've covered and spent the money on the important stuff, which is kind of, yeah, something that I've really been trying to aim for, to show that you don't need that stuff, but it's important to have other parts of it.
Yeah, plus on those massive jumps, like, little knee pads are the least of your concern. You know, if you're crashing on huge pads, they're not doing that much, man.
Dude, they're not doing anything.
They're on your ankles,
they're not doing anything. Yeah. They're more than likely like just gonna get caught up on your seat and make you crash worse.
Yeah.
I reckon. Like, I don't know. It's kind of, I got a lot of grief on social media and YouTube comments and stuff over it. There's so
Really?
many people, and they're like,
Whoa, that's
dude, so much. Like, people messaging me like actually angry.
Oh, dude,
Like,
it
saying,
happens.
like,
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
it happens a lot, man. Like,
yeah, crazy. Like saying, just messages being like, can't believe you're at such a high level in the sport and you're advertising to the young kids that you shouldn't be wearing knee pads. And I was to reply like, well, how come you don't wear elbow pads and I'm wearing a neck brace and you're not? And it's like, I'm not trying to have a dig, but, you know, I've kind of like, we're wearing an equal amount of protection. You've got no neck brace, but you've got knee pads. So we've both got 2 bits of armor on here. And I've broken my neck multiple times, and that's the bit that I care about. Like,
yeah. I used to get that many letters and emails to 2020 and Revo about not protective gear on covers. It's like, oh, I don't really care in the mag.
really?
He hasn't got protective gear on the cover. I mean, we did run a couple of no helmet. Like, fucking half the covers had no helmets on 2020. It didn't matter, right? But yeah. We would cop it for helmets and would cop it for for not protective equipment on elbow pads, knee pads, etc. Like all the time, like endless. And we had a lot of fun riding back to him, taking the piss. But
yeah,
I mean, the cool thing was you didn't have to wear a helmet, right? It wasn't on a public road, so you weren't breaking rules. But yeah, but in the end,
yeah, fully.
Yeah, to me, a helmet, that's all that really matters on a bike. You know, if your bike should work good, your helmet should be working good. Other than that, fuck you.
Exactly.
You hurt your knee, you're gonna live.
Yeah, and it's like anything. You want to feel comfortable doing what you're doing, and like, if like I don't like, you can wear whatever you want if you feel comfortable in it, go for it. But at the end of the day, like, I'm hitting an 80-foot double. I don't want to be thinking about, I better put my knee pads on in case I crash.
Yeah.
I want to be like in the zone, comfortable, ready to go to the after party.
Yes.
Afterwards. Like, you want that, you know, I want to have, like, when I'm kitting up, I want to be thinking like, oh, wear this shirt because when we have this main session and we all finish, I can go straight to the bar, not,
yes.
Oh, I'm going to put these knee pads on so when I go to the hospital, my knees might be a bit better.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true, man. Yeah. So talking about Red Bull and hooking you up and how they were going to deal with you, you just put out a project to make content for them. And that was I was talking to them about going, just make content. So you've just done a project up in Queensland at Boomerang, yeah?
Yep.
That was rad.
Yeah, that was the last project. Cheers.
It's good to see you almost Haro 88 Sport rear end hanging out.
Yeah, it's pretty similar. My very first bike actually was a 88 GT Performer.
Damn.
So pretty similar kind of back setup on it.
Yeah. Yep.
Fuck yeah.
Yep.
But no, that was a really cool
GT's
project.
twisted. Sorry, man. I'll just fill you in. Back in 88, Haro's cracked, GT's twisted. They're both junk.
True.
Yeah.
But also, you know, fast forwarding to Garrett Burns, his signature T1 frame had little grind plates on the chainstays.
True. Yeah.
That was his signature Barco had a built-in seat post and little grind plates on the chainstays.
Yeah.
He was like one of the like pegless sort of pioneers, I guess, like doing grinds without pegs. Fucking rad.
Yeah, well, in the going off what you were asking about bike parts before, that's something you might be seeing in mountain biking in the near future.
Awesome.
Some weird stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, tell us about the course or the trail you built up at Boomerang.
Yeah, so basically, like, I guess it's kind of a weird, like you were saying, I guess, because I dabble into a bit of everything. It's like, where do we actually start with the content? What kind of project do we actually do? Do we do a slope style? Do we do a downhill race? Do we do a mountain bike? Do a BMX? Like, what? So it's kind of like a bit of a empty spot there on actually what we were going to do for a while. We're like trying to work out a plan, and then the boys in Sydney from the office came up with the concept of doing 7K in 7 days, which kind of tied a bit of all of it in. It tied like, I guess, my BMX digging side and my actual trail building side, as well as mountain biking. And yeah, and then we had to find a bit of land, and I knew that there was this bike park right by my parents' house. That was ran by a heap of guys that I grew up around, and it seemed like the perfect opportunity, really. Like I've always, for the last few years, I've always said to Dad, like, how awesome would it be if we could maybe at some point in my riding career, I could build some sort of training facility or some sort of way to give back to the local area. And then this opportunity rose, and it seemed like basically a step in that direction, which was pretty cool. So rather than doing the generic kind of like a lot of mountain bike videos, they've got cool builds, but they're always on farms or private property that afterwards need to get knocked down or taken back to how the land is, or there's arrangements. I really wanted to make sure that it was a location that could give back to the community kind of thing. So yeah, that worked out perfect. And then the guys at the Boomerang Farm were super keen on it, and it suits that park because that's kind of a free ride jump orientated park anyway. And yeah, we did a little scout mission, scouted a few spots, worked out the best spot on the mountain to build what I had in mind. And I basically just said I want to make a BMX inspired line for downhill bikes, basically, which is how I want to push my riding in the next few years, is kind of a mix of the two and just be who I am, but all in one, I guess, rather than being separated between the bikes.
Well, that sort of extended video was rad because it showed the build sort of process and everything. And I mean, one thing I was actually chatting to Will Kerr the other day about, like, mountain biking and what you're doing especially is awesome because it sort of shows off and showcases the building and like the rewards you get from building cool shit. Whereas BMX is sort of, the building's a little bit more hidden, and like young kids
definitely
going to the skate park, they've got everything handed to them on the plate. They're not going out and building. Whereas mountain biking is sort of celebrating the DIY culture a bit more. And even like now during lockdown in my area, which is sort of inner Western Sydney, like I'm 5Ks from the city, like I'm going on my morning dog walk with Gunner, and I'm noticing little mountain bike kids have carved lips and shit, and like they've got little root jumps, and like BMX kids aren't doing that anymore, especially in the city. But like, and mountain biking is doing a really good job, especially, I mean, your video, especially like sort of showing like build your own fun and you will have fun, and like that video, it's killer.
I think that's what it's all about. It's like you want to ride where you create, and I think that was something that I really wanted to show. And like it kind of it didn't work out well, but it worked out well that I had that crash in the video, because it was like, and I wanted to make sure that got put in the video because it shows what happens in a process like that. A lot of the time when you do see a build video, they just show like some crazy drone clips or like, I don't know, some cool arty shots of the build, but they don't actually show kids or anyone, I guess, what it actually takes, but also how achievable it is, I guess, because with that kind of behind the scenes, you get to see like, oh, there are just a bunch of normal dudes building shit in the woods. Like it's nothing special. Obviously we have the diggers and stuff, which isn't achievable for a lot of people, but it was like $7,000 is a pretty achievable budget when you think of how much any parent spends on a pool for their backyard or a tennis court, or like they buy some sort of like a PlayStation's like $1,000 or something, like at the end of the day, $7,000 isn't that much compared to what people spend on a household item for their kids growing up. So I think it was really cool to showcase that it was $7,000 and that's what it takes basically. And I was stoked that it shows that it's real as well, because I think that the testing side of things is definitely a hidden part on a lot of videos. You see like the glory at the end, but you don't see what the riders actually, unless you're friends with them or like you don't really see that, like. And that really hurt actually.
Look like it. Fuck.
Yeah, but it was cool. It kind of brought it together and showed that it is real and what's actually going on, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, man. So is the sub box, grind box, is that going to stay there?
Yeah, so that's still there. So that's something that I've got a lot of drawings of different boxes. That's something I've been working on for a while now, actually, that kind of released for that. But it was definitely a pretty, like, I'm stoked on it, but it was definitely a pretty half-assed thing compared to what I want to do in the future, I guess, because it's still so new to me and the sport, I guess. It's like learning, but like what we were talking about earlier about how it's turning into like a snowboarding style sport now. That's where I'm getting a lot of the inspiration for the builds between BMX to snowboarding. And for bikes, there's heaps of bike parks around the world now. But when you compare a bike park to a snow park, they're a lot different. A bike park realistically isn't actually a park.
Yeah.
They're just a bunch of tracks on a hill. It's like, how can you call that a bike park when it's just actually like bike tracks? So that's kind of that's kind of a major thing that I've been trying to work on, is ways that we can adapt that, especially because a lot of the bike parks are at established ski resorts, so they all have the infrastructure to build proper parks. They've all got the big half pipes, they've all got rails, boxes, everything sitting there and storage ready for winter. But we could be using it for summer if we build it for mountain bikes. So,
dude, where were you?
That was kind of
where were you 10, 15 years ago for dirt pipe? Like, so Red Bull hit us up years ago, back 2002, 3, and they went, we want to build a snowboard pipe out of dirt and we'll have a BMX and mountain bike on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, we'll go do that. Yeah. And so the first thing we did, they flew us over to WA and we built like a mini one at a mini airport at Janticot. And we put subs and rails on the top and hips and little extensions. And it's like,
yeah,
this is doable, man. Like, this is so doable. And you put this down a freaking hill. And years later they did. We something with a $200,000 hole in the ground with a dirt pipe, right?
Yeah.
But the whole time it was like, it was epic on a BMX, but it was always going to be better on a bigger bike. Like, that was the thing.
Fully.
Always going to be better.
BMX park is already a thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's already established in that part. But I think there's definitely a massive empty field for that in mountain biking that is yet to become. There's a very half-assed attempt of it happening at the moment with bike parks, but they're not actually parks. They're just tracks. And that's something that I want to really work on and try and work out a way to bring it in. And it's not only for the riding, but it's just also like, you see here in the summer, there's these massive scars in the hill for the winter infrastructure. And you're like, we could be using that. It's just like the hill's just sitting up there, like so damaged from earthworks for winter. Why don't we make the most of it in summer too?
Yeah.
So that's, I really want to see and push the way that we can kind of work boxes and stuff. And like those, for example, like that box, you don't have to grind it to ride it. Like, you could use it as a manual pad. You could use it for a nose bonk. You could tie slide the side coping. You could gap the whole thing. It's like, it's actually not a specific box. Like, it's going to stay there because it's a park feature. It's like, you can make what you want of it. It's like when you're at the skate park and there's a box, you can nose tap it, you can tie slide it, you can do whatever you want. So that's, that was kind of my first trial on that in a public zone. And it was pretty cool to see the audience of riders that helped test it and ride it. And everyone was riding it, but in a different way. It was pretty, it was sick to see. So maybe if I get my shit together and build a better skid grind plate that works with a chain, more people might be interested in the grinding part.
That's it, man.
I think, yeah, the derailleur is the problem.
Take it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, so the problem then with the mountain bikes is the way the linkages currently work. No downhill bikes are designed for that. They're all designed for downhill riding to go over bumps quicker and smoother. So that's kind of an issue. That's the next kind of thing to try and work out, is making a linkage like the fingers crossed bikes that then works without needing a chain tensioner. Yeah, it's a work in progress, but I was stoked to trial it in that zone and kind of, I think it's really cool to give it to such a small mountain bike community. They get to get a taste of what's happening and what can be, you know, like there's kids there that have never even traveled interstate, and all of a sudden they see something that's at like a global progression level. I think it's pretty cool, even if they can't ride it, just to see it and get ideas in their head of what is achievable if they want to.
Oh, and they'll have a crack, and in 6 months they'll be hitting it, you know, like that's the other cool thing.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big goal on that build as well. I wanted to make it not gnarly big, but I definitely wanted it to be gnarly technical with a lot of features that I know no one's used to riding. Like there's not many, like I've never seen a wall ride built like that, for example. And a few of those features are, they're so different, but they're not gnarly. They're just different. So it's really cool to see like, all the kids there at the moment are struggling with it, which the riding's going to up a level from where currently that I really wanted to give them was something that they need to work up to get to like a level of like, oh, if we can do that wall ride, fuck, we might be able to take it to the next level and build this one ourselves and take that DIY step to the next level of their own.
For sure, man. Like, I think, yeah, we've grown up on straight jumps, and it has to start going round corners.
Yeah.
Nothing better than hips.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah, man,
you need the curves.
So what's in store for that? Oh, go on.
Oh, my laptop may die.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, man, what's in store for this year coming up?
The next goal is basically, for me, I want to build some really gnarly jumps. I want to build the world's biggest jumps, basically. That's kind of my goal. Not actually the world's biggest jumps, maybe, but I want to build something that's at a level of like Loose Fest and Dark Fest and those kind of things that are kind of leading it. But I want to build something with my own taste at that kind of level. Like, it doesn't have to actually be the biggest, but at that kind of, that's my next goal, to get my riding, have a zone like that built somewhere in the Southern Hemisphere that is at such a high level, because it's something that's not really been done. But yeah, it's kind of that. Yeah, that's my goal. I want to be riding stuff that big every day, and I think it would be especially cool to bring something like that to Australia or New Zealand, because it's something that we've never actually had. And like we were talking earlier, it's not a very achievable goal for a lot of the kids, because they've got nothing visually to actually see in real life. But if there's one down here that they don't have to travel to Europe to get to, it's actually like a pretty achievable thing and something for those riders to really work on. So yeah, that's kind of my next goal, is just to build something really scary.
Yeah, then you can just knock off work and hit some 80-foot doubles. Yeah, fuck, just chilling.
Rad, man. Well, man, like, it sounds like we better wrap it up.
Yeah, but that's the thing there. Like in your, yeah.
Keep going, man. No, if you want to keep going.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, that's the thing though. It's like that's what you want to be doing on a Monday, Arvo. You want to have a shit day at work on a Monday. You don't want to be there, and then you can knock off and go ride a set of 80-foot sets, and it's gonna make your day.
Oh, man.
Like if you're doing that shit daily, you're gonna be happy.
Yeah.
Like regardless of the day you've had before, you're gonna go to sleep pretty stoked. And that's kind of like, we know how to ride bikes. You know how to jump a jump. It's just bigger and faster. It's the same shit. That's the goal. Snowboarders and skiers are doing it. Moto riders are doing it.
Yeah.
Skaters are doing it on mega ramps even. It's like, we just need to build it and do it. It's just something that's not really a common sight in mountain biking at the moment.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah, it's true.
So,
Man, I think you've said the best thing. It can that go to sleep feeling stoked on what you've ridden. Right? I think that's the whole reason for living.
Yeah, I agree. That's what you want, eh? You don't want to go to bed upset with yourself. You want to be happy with the day you've done.
Yeah,
you don't want to be thinking about that stump, man. You want to fucking.
But can you get to sleep on those days when you're so stoked on a line and you hit it just running through your head and then you can't sleep because you're like, yep, got it.
Yeah, you're just laying in bed like, holy shit. Yeah. So that's kind of, I guess that's my next goal, is to kind of achieve that and get to that next level of kind of for both me as a rider and also showing everyone that down here that we can do that shit. It's not like a different world of living. Like, you don't need, I don't want it to be that same gap between me and Grand Talon of free ride downhill. I want it to be every 2 years there's a good rider coming out of the country, not there's only been one rider to ever do Rampage, an Australian. It needs to.
Hang on, man.
It'd be really awesome.
Hang on. Mick Hanna, done Rampage.
Well, there's been more than one.
Andrew Mills.
Yeah, I know.
Johnny Waddell. Yeah, there's a bunch. There's been gnarly.
There's a bunch, yeah, but sorry, yeah. But it was all like, it was like 18 years ago that shit was happening.
It's true, man. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it hasn't happened since, and it's like I really want to try and make it a more of a common thing, and like I want to get to there as well. Like I haven't achieved that yet either, but it's something that would be cool to try and bring to the youth of Australia, that it is actually an achievable goal.
Hell yeah, man.
Well, before we lose battery and connection, I just had a random thought. Like, when you were younger, when Dane Searles hit his crazy big line, did that plant some sort of seed? Since since that video, no one on 20-inch wise, like you riding the big stuff, there hasn't been a lot of the really, really big stuff like that. Do you think, was that something you looked at when you were younger as well? And thought, fucking, you could do something like that? And also shout out to Dane. Legend.
Yeah, I watched that video. Yeah, definitely legend. I watched that video a lot in school. I guess because he was living on the Gold Coast at the time, so it was like a local legend. All of our schoolmates all watched him. And that was definitely something that I was like, that's insane. But it wasn't something that I thought, it didn't really drive me until a little bit later on, when after he passed, Josh Stead was doing the 419 project.
That's right.
And he contacted my dad, because dad was doing mountain bike club stuff. And he asked if he could come check out this property with us that dad was helping organize for a mountain bike event. So we met up with Josh and went out to this farm and we're scoping it. And I just remember it so clearly in my head, standing on the top of this grass hill that was so fast on a downhill bike. And he was like, yeah, I reckon this will work. I want to be going between 70 and 90K into the big jump. And I just remember him saying that.
Blimey. Fuck.
Yeah, and I just remember him thinking that and just thinking it was like, I don't know if he was actually going to be going that fast, but I just remember like thinking, fuck, like he has that mindset is so badass to be thinking I want to be going 90 kilometers an hour into a jump. Like, and I think I guess that led from Dane. Yeah. So that's honestly been a thought that runs through my head like once a week. I just think of him saying that, like, no shit. I'm just like, if he was thinking of doing that on a BMX, what can I do on a downhill bike, you know?
Yeah.
Fully.
And that he was thinking that 10 years ago. So like, or longer than, it's probably like 12 years ago now. So like, I'm like, yeah, if he was thinking that then, surely with the technology that's in the bikes and the way that riding's progressed since, surely we can make it happen. So that's, definitely a big motivation from Dane.
Fuck yeah. Well, shout out to Stead too. Yeah, rest in peace, Dane. Fucking hell. Like, yeah, holy shit. Like, when that video dropped though, I think everybody lost their mind a bit, you know? That's fucking, it was so heavy.
That changed mountain biking massively, that video. I think that was definitely like I was talking. Can you hear me?
Now. Yeah.
Yep.
Fuck.
Yeah. With I think like that whole project of Dane's changed mountain biking, because I was talking to Andreo about it this year in Europe actually, and he went and rode there, and he was saying like he couldn't believe it when he turned out. It was the biggest jumps he'd ever seen, and like at the time mountain biking was jumping a lot bigger than BMX, and then all of a sudden this dude's jumping bigger shit than he ever had on a BMX, like, and I think that was kind of like what a massive motivation to the way that he started riding and the way that Fest started, and that really motivated mountain bikers to take it to the next level. And I reckon that was kind of like the start of, not only did it take mountain biking to that next level of jumps, but it also was the start of then mountain bikers were starting to do real badass shit that BMX was respected. And then that's where the sports kind of started joining from that project, I reckon, because he inspired mountain bikers to do what they were doing, but at another scale. And the BMXers started getting stoked because they were like, oh, these guys actually are worthy of the bikes they're on. They're not just riding Max's Minions on our trails and
fully.
Like, you know. And I think that honestly, he changed not only BMX, he changed bike riding for sure because of that project.
Definitely.
Sweet as. I reckon my laptop's going to die any minute, so.
That's it, man.
Cool.
Well,
thanks
for your time tonight, man.
No, thanks for the chats. Hopefully it comes out all good and you guys are happy with it.
Oh man, yeah, be fucking rad.
The tales are awesome. Audio epic. Video, no, fuck it.
We'll see. Yeah.
No, awesome, man. It was real good to stop and chat. Yeah, there's some good tales there. It's great to get them out to the world.
And yeah, as soon as we're allowed to travel, I'm fucking straight in New Zealand, man. Holy shit. Gotta get over there again. Sorry for the glitches in the audio, the interview, folks, but I think we had a pretty good talk. We think it's safe to say that Remy is on a whole new exciting level and is an amazing positive influence on the future direction of BMX and mountain biking and everything in between the two. Showing the kids that there is few things in this world as rewarding as building your own fun, being yourself and riding the way you want to ride. Thank you, Remy Morton. You rule.